report federal dollars from state agencies to the Department of Management. Iowa Code Chapter 8.92A requires that every state agency report the federal grants for which the agency has applied to the Department of Management. Today we will walk through the process to report that at www.iowogrants.gov. The grants that are required to be reported are those that are subject to review pursuant to the Federal Executive Order 12732 and when the Form 424 is required to be submitted with your application. Also, grants are to be reported that are not subject to that executive order, but that are above $1,000. This would include competitive and non-competitive grants. Today, Dennis Wiggins will walk us through how to enter the information into iowogrants.gov.
Thanks, Deb. So we're going to give a quick overview of the minimum requirement using Iowa Grants to submit the Executive Order 12732 and to receive a letter from the grant system indicating that you've submitted it to Deb through Iowa Grants. So this is primarily for folks who aren't typical users of Iowa Grants. And so what you're going to do is you're going to click on funding opportunities. Now, keep in mind, I'm a broader user of Iowa Grants, so you're going to see a few things on my screen that you won't see on yours, but everything I'm going to show you should be available to you with your user ID. So once you've logged into the grant system, you're going to click on funding opportunities.
No.
Oh, sorry, internal grants. And then you're going to click on internal applications. You're going to add a new internal application. And on this page, you come to a wizard that's going to help you fill out this form, and you're going to actually save it a couple of times because you're going to give the information to the system, and it's going to say, okay, based on what you just told me, answer a few more questions. So we're going to save this form 3 times. So you're going to click on funding opportunity, and you're really probably only going to see your own agency there. So you're going to click on that. This is a final application, and that's the only option. It's in editing status. That's the only option. You're going to enter a title. Typically, we put a descriptive title in here. And then you got to tell the system who the primary contact is. So if you click on locate person, typically this is going to be yourself. So you tell the system to go find you. Click on yourself here. And then you notice that there are a couple of more questions that you can't answer at the moment because the system needs to know who you're submitting this on behalf of. So we tell it that by hitting save. And then now we can answer the next question, which is Office of Drug Control Policy. If you're not a typical user in here, not a usual user in the grant system, you're probably only going to see the Z agency with the name of your agency after it. So you're going to select that. You're going to save it and notice that there's another question we can't answer until we answer this question. So we hit save. Now, this is, you'll see in black, so it means it's an optional question. So I'm just going to leave that blank because it's optional. I'm going to hit save one more time. Okay. Now we've just answered the general information through that wizard that we just went through, and it marks that form is complete here. So the next thing you're going to do is you're going to click on application details. And now we're going to tell the system a little bit about your application. Again, descriptive title. And for me, it should remember some of the information I put in here before. So when I hit tab and put my name in, there it is. And now everything, as I mentioned before, everything in red is required. The system kind of helped me fill it out because I filled this form out before. If it doesn't pre-populate this information for you, you're just going to have to go through one at a time and add it. So Deb requires you to submit this information when you make an application, not necessarily when you've received a grant. And so most likely you're going to be putting this information in at the point where it's submitted. So I'm going to pick submitted there. This is a grant. I'll just leave test. The CFDA number, now called the ALN number, is pre-populated just from an earlier one that I entered. I'm going to put the amount is 10 million.
Also, back on the ALN number, if you do not know it, we really want you to include it if you have it, but if you do not know it, just put a 0 in there because it is a required field. And you may have to put 00.00 or something like that for the formatting, but make sure you put something in there.
Yeah, and so that's a good point, Deb. And so if you get this far and you find out there's something you don't know, notice that I haven't answered all the required fields. I can go ahead and save the form, right? Go find out the information I need, come back to this form, edit it, and finish up, right? So now I'm going to answer, is match required? No. What's the maintenance effort? Is there a maintenance effort? No. Number of FTEs, it pre-populated 3 because that's the last test that I entered. And the amount of the budget for the FTEs, 120,000. And I'll just use the default start dates and save the form. Okay. Now, I've entered all of the required information on both forms. I'm satisfied with it. If I weren't satisfied with it, I can go in and edit it. I can close it, come back, open it up again, edit this form until I'm finished with it. But when I'm finished with it, I'm going to mark it as complete. Now, you can see that both elements are now marked as complete. So now I'm ready to go get my letter. I have to document for the feds that I've submitted this information to Deb per Executive Order 12732. So I'm going to go down to reports. I'm going to generate a letter. Now, one of the things that you need to know when you get here is the application number. And so when you click on this letter, you have to have the document number, and that's the application number. I forgot to copy that, so I'm going to go back to the funding, or I'm going to go back to internal grants. I keep doing that. And honestly, I don't even know which test it was, but I'm going to click on this one, and I'm going to copy this number. And I'm going to go again to reports and letter. I'm going to click on the letter. I'm going to enter the document number, which is the grant number. And I'm going to generate a report. Now it's taken the information we entered into the internal grant and created a letter for you from Department of Management. Now I can print this. Now there are various ways to get this PDF. At the moment, print to PDF isn't working. It makes this header really, really small. And so what we've been telling people to do is use the send to printer. And then you select the printer as a PDF and then print it to a PDF. It'll work either way, but the other way of doing it just really at the moment looks really ugly, and the vendor's working on fixing that. But for now, if you just print it, looks pretty good. Determine in your own file system where you want to save it, and I'm not going to save it. But if you were going to save it to your C drive, you just hit save, and then you can open it up, and it's available to you as a PDF. And that's it. Deb, I'll pass it back to you in case I left anything out.
I don't think so. I think that was a good demonstration. I would just add that if you have issues accessing the internal grants module, or it's not working like this, please contact me, and I can make sure that your account has been set up correctly and you have the appropriate role to be able to do this. But it works pretty well. If you have any further questions, feel free to give Dennis or I send us an email, and we would be happy to answer any questions. So thank you for attending.
Very good. I just want to point out real quickly that remember when you go to print the letter, you need the ID of the grant that you set up. Now, I've got a whole bunch in here. You're going to have one or two, so this will not be as complicated. But you do need to copy this number.
Or
when
you
go to
can
print
write
the
it down.
Yeah.
You could write it down as you're entering the information. Just remember, you will need it at the end. So as you're going through, as you click those save buttons, it will automatically generate this number. And if you remember to write it down, you'll make sure you get the right one.
Yeah. Yeah. So really two things that you need to keep in mind. I think it's a pretty easy process, but one is that first wizard that you go through, you have to actually save it 3 times because you have to add some information, save it, add some information, save it, and then you move on from there. And then this is the other sort of impediment, I think, to the process, where you have to remember that you need the ID number in order to print the letter. So other than that, I think it's pretty straightforward.
And we'll get this information added. Oh, that's okay.
Did you have something else?
I was just going to say we'll get this information added to our training DOM website for Iowa grants.
Great. Okay, I'm going to stop the recording, Deb.
Thank you.